Ooh, there we go. We are live. We be livin' it. Let's see. Gotta clear some stuff up here. That's not it. I always forget to post the URL. I think that's the URL. I'm so new to live streaming still. Hello. 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 Hi. Okay. Sure. You're welcome. Bye. There we go. I don't know if anybody will be joining, but if you are, go ahead and say hi. And I'm going to be putting this together. It ought to be about right there. Ought to do it. Drop that down. There's Gaea. Oops. That's going to make things hard to use. We don't want to show desktop icons. And let's do that. There we go. Alrighty. Let's see how that looks in the stream real fast. Yeah, that's looking about right. All right. I should probably put this on the analytics so I know how many of you guys are joining. That is quite important to know as well. So I'll just give it a couple minutes, wait for people to join up, and then we'll start talking about things. If people join anyways. I know it's late. I apologize for that. But I've been itching to play with it, and I've been also been wanting to do a live stream with you guys for a very long time, and just haven't gotten around to be able to do one until now. I also want to go over what's coming up with the subscription options that I have, because there's going to be quite a few things coming down the pipeline. Close the door. And in celebration for certain things that have gone on the last couple of days, I do have a little bit of nice High West whiskey. This is the Campfire Edition, so if any of you are from Utah, you might know what this brand of whiskey is. And I only really drink it when there's something to celebrate, because I've had that bottle for a while, and they are not the cheapest thing, but I also didn't buy it for myself. A buddy bought it for me. So there is that. Gotta savor it. And I also just have a little bit of orange juice here, so that'll be a good calm downer, I guess, if that's a good way to put it. Hopefully you all can hear me if anyone's joined. I'm also going to throw up this. That's a second window. There we go. I do have a message from my wife. Nice. Disney is releasing a Hocus Pocus game. Oh, nice. Nice. Talk to her about that later. Lots of new stuff for sure. So we won't wait too much longer, because some people will probably watch this after the live stream's done. I'm gonna make this a super short live stream, but I just wanted to get things kind of rolling in the new stuff here. And I'm also going to set up my preferences again, because whenever I install Gaea, I usually install it as a new installation rather than just a patch. That way I can, if anything does come up bug-wise, I can usually bypass all of that by having to uninstall and reinstall and remove folders and stuff like that. So I just usually install it as a new application. Unfortunately, when you do that, you lose your preferences, and you also lose the common nodes that you use. But that's fine, because I mean, I know how to use Gaea well enough that that's not too much of an issue for me. But you know, there is that. There should be a yeah, right here. I want bright. I like the bright ones, and efficient is good, and extended is also good. And yes. Now, if you go to workspace, see I have nothing here on the graph. That's how I want it. I want to go to workspace, and then I want to save workspace. That way I'll save this as my default. That way it doesn't open up with two nodes here that I'm not going to use, or I might use, but you know, it doesn't. Most of the time I'm probably not. All right, so first let's look at some stuff here. So this multifractal came in the last update, but there were some changes to it. So I'm going to toss that on there. And multifractal is quickly becoming my go-to fractal for pretty much anything, even bypassing Perlin fractal, which is what I would use a lot of. But they added some variation to this, which is nice. It just kind of updated it, I think. All the settings are the same. So they've changed things around. We no longer just have primitives. We have primitives and geo primitives, which is good. So this is going to be like primitives that you need for more basic stuff, basic noises. These are going to be like your whole cell. So if you want a mountain look, you can just throw mountain on here, and it just combines a bunch of different elements from the primitives to create a mountain, which is nice. I like that. Same with plates and anything that's really just more of an effect, but is also used as a primitive, that so it doesn't belong in like the adjustments or anything like that. So that's pretty good. I like that a lot. It helps kind of divvy out what's what, and you don't have to be looking through a long list of primitives. Now you know you have primitives, and then you have geological primitives, which is nice. And ridge is in here. Ridge is good. Ridge should have a whole bunch of different options here that I want to play with. If this is like the ridge that they were making for geoglyph, I'm going to have a whole lot of fun with this one. Okay, then we have the new sand. That's pretty cool. I have seen elements of this. Let's take a gander at it. Yeah, so this is more like your sandy ground. So that's not to be mistaken with their sand dunes. If they still have it. Or C. Well, looks like they've changed out a lot of stuff. Alright, dunes. Looks like it's just dunes now. And that is also under geo primitives, so that's good. The nice thing to do with this is that you can probably take your dunes and then combine them with sand. I'm just going to do it this way to keep things simple. So that you have your dunes coming in, as well as your sandy features. And I think if you were to mask in the dunes a bit more, and then let's do the full blend here. Maybe not. Maybe not mask the dunes in. Maybe the sand. You can make really tall sand with that. That's nice. That's if you just mask in the sand. There we go. Now it's kind of more different. I know I don't sound all that great when I'm off the cuff, but when I make video tutorials, I usually put them together. But in this case, I am not. We're going to do add. That way we get the full amount, or actually you could probably do max. And then you get all the dunes that you have, as well as the sand sea thing going on. Let's change up the seed here, and let's increase the height just so we can get some additional details coming in. And let's, yeah, so that looks much better. And then what you can add to this that even make it look more better, it's not proper English, but in the slightest, is you can add the erosion here, and it will be sediment. You just add some sediment in there. Maybe not that much. You might turn this down a bit. Keep the amount up really high, just change the amount. And that might add just enough small variation in here. If we look right here. Actually, if we go up. Let's go up a bit. Yeah, that's just a tiny amount there. That's pretty cool. Just enough to cover up the harsher parts of the sea, of the sand. Sorry, not the sea, but the sand. You know what's nice about this sand too, though, is you can use this for like waves if you wanted to make an ocean floor, or not even just an ocean floor, but like waves for an ocean. This would be a really good way to do it. And the nice thing about this is that you can make this really long or really large. Probably turn down some of the options here that kind of give it this variation like this that doesn't look like it would be a wave. Yeah, now that looks more like a wave. And then what you can do is just play with like the softness a bit, so the waves are a little bit more soft on the top. And you can take the normal map from that and you can actually have a pretty cool looking ocean. So I want to actually try that real quick. So let's just take the sand the way it is. We're going to play around with these options real quick actually. Let's see what I know what undulation will be. It's what gives it the undulating details that mix it all up. So if you were to have a small amount, you get more straight lines. But if we increase it the way it was before, we'll just start giving it more of that chaotic look, which is what we kind of want. This is like a very basic wave, I guess, but we want to break it up just a bit more. Yeah, I think the default was probably pretty good, which was 40, so don't want to do too much of that. And then we're going to do wind A, and I'm not sure if they're going to implement more wind options, or that pass. Yeah, okay. The single pass, when you turn that off, you get like the small and large options as well as the channels. And the channels will probably be like these features right here. So let's turn that down. You don't need a whole lot of channels if we were to make waves like an ocean wave. Yeah, that's what that was. Now those channels are mostly gone. Still have about 15% channels, but it doesn't look like you can turn it all the way down. I wonder if you can, if you know. So the lowest option will be 15, and I think they have it set like that so you don't totally kill off the majority of the details, but I think 15 is pretty good. And then we could probably just decrease the undulation a little bit by 35. And then the wind A and B, I imagine they're just going to be different wind patterns that do different like directions, but let's find out. So we have 145 here, and I'm not sure if this is in degrees, but I think, yeah, it's most likely in degrees. Is it 360? Yeah, this is in degrees, so you'll at least have an easy way of knowing what degree your wind should be blowing at. And then wind B will probably just do the same thing in degrees, but at least you have two different options to choose from. You don't only have to worry about wind from one direction. So that's pretty nice. This one looks like it's actually going to affect the tops a bit more. The tops of the dunes, little sand dunes here. Oh, okay. So it makes it more, it gives it more of a striation, vertical striation. And this is more horizontal. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, you can get some really cool looking effects. You can use this for sand, obviously, but you can also use this for really harsh rock. I can see this working really well with other things. I know I was going to export this and see what it would look like as a C, like in Cinema 4D and using Octane, but I kind of want to do one thing real quick, and I want to add Stratify. Yeah, that's going to give you some interesting looks there. I'm going to play with that a little bit more, but it does make it a little bit more flowy. I like this. It's really cool. All right, so without playing around too much, let's go ahead and mark this for export after we remove all of our options here. Also, I want to thank all of you who purchased the $60, the special price on Gumroad. That's awesome. You guys have no clue how much that helps me. It really has helped me. I have already been able to use your generous donations and get a much needed computer hardware upgrade to help me do this stuff a little bit more, as in a slightly better mic stand. So before I had this really crappy, like Amazon, it's not even an Amazon Basics, it was cheaper than an Amazon Basics like boom mic stand for my desk, and it was falling apart. I've had it since maybe 2009, and it was just falling apart, and my mic was just not staying up, and I actually had it duct taped around one of my my desk arms that I have to keep it up, because it just didn't have enough leverage in it anymore to keep my mic up. So the first thing I did is I bought an arm to hopefully be able to position my audio in better locations while I'm recording, as well as actually be able to have it set up in a way that will be more feasible for making videos. So I do highly appreciate it. There will be more stuff to come later down the road as well. So I just want you guys to know that anything that you guys subscribe to or buy or donate, it all goes towards this stuff. None of it, I have a job. The job pays the bills, but that's about all it does, and I don't have any like freedom with that. So my escape is fishing and camping, which is relatively inexpensive. I can get a fishing license for a year for like $30, and I can go fishing, and that's fine by me because it gets me out in the nature, and I enjoy being in nature, and I get to do 3D stuff. So I don't get to do a whole lot of traveling and I live by campgrounds that are in walking distance. So a lot of the time we'll go up there with our backpacks and we'll just go camp for a weekend or something. So that, and then my studies, as in like my higher education studies, is flying. So what money that I make through my job that doesn't pay bills and get us food goes towards that, because my wife already has her degree, and we almost have her student loans paid off. So luckily that's good. But then we have me, and I'm trying to finish that line of study because I actually want to get out of the tech industry. I want to stay in 3D, which is a lot in the tech industry actually, but I actually just want to get out of the tech industry and I don't know, go live my dream, I guess, which is flying airplanes and making 3D content and teaching people how to use it. So there's that. Anyways, let's do a normal map. I just wanted to say thank you is all, because you guys have really helped a lot, and I just didn't want to downplay that. And no amount of words I use will be able to actually tell you exactly how awesome and important that is to me. I'm going to reduce the undulation on that. And we'll get a little bit less of this chaotic mess in there just for these waves. Waves have a bit of a pattern to them. Like if you look at sand being blown with the wind, they follow the same pattern as waves, right? Because they're both being hit by the wind in similar fashion. And sand is like a fluid in ways, so it'll make similar patterns. It's a little bit more stiff, obviously, but it'll make similar patterns. All right, let's pin that, or mark for export, and mark for export. And since we're just using this for like water and waves and stuff like that, we don't need a really high resolution of this. I think 1K will work just fine. I'm gonna try this with single pass one more time. Let's see what that looks like. Probably not gonna change much, but it did kind of free up the tops a bit, which I actually like. I'm going to keep this. This will be my final decision. I will keep that. And the nice thing about this is that it's actually displaced too. So you don't have to worry about using a displacement for your water, which can really help cut down on the processing. Now, this isn't going to be a perfect option by any means, but maybe a little bit of playthrough and playing around with it might. You can probably even do like a purlin mask. I know I'm going on another tangent here. I do apologize. I do that often. It's when I start thinking is when I start doing it. So it kind of did a little bit. I want to use this purlin as a mask to kind of create different features. That might do it. I want it to be kind of swirly just to see. Yeah, there we go. And then what this will do is it'll create that wind shear effect that you have on water. That's what I'm trying to make, is we have our waves, but then every once in a while we have like that wind shear that comes out and hits the water and kind of disturbs it. That's what I'm trying to make. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Okay, let's go to build, and we're just going to throw this out on the desktop in a new folder. And we'll just do 1K for now. This is just to test things out. And we're going to do 16-bit TIFF. The normal map will not be 16-bit. We'll use 8-bit for that. And we're going to do proportional, at least while we're using Cinema 4D. There's a new option, which is remapped. Which is nice. It's mapped from 0 to 1 to the range you specify, and you can enter negative values as well, which is pretty cool. However, proportional, I believe, in my experience in working in Gaea so far, has been the best option to choose while you're working in Cinema 4D using Octane. So let's go ahead and build this out, and yeah, we'll save it in here. We'll just save it C. There we go. Something stupid easy, and that shouldn't take long to build. Sweet. I should have opened Cinema 4D before this because it takes forever. Another thing that I was able to get because of you guys, which I am so happy for, is I was actually able to get a license, a new license for Forester. So that is awesome. I had to rely on older versions of Cinema 4D for it to work. And for some reason, I have a license for Forester. I bought it years ago. And for some reason, they had decided that I can't get an upgrade to the release R21 or R22 with Forester, and I don't know why. And I'd have to go dig through the email, but there is personal information in there, so I don't want to really show it to anybody. And I from what they told me, it was reasonable because I just had such an old license. A lot of things have changed. They've added a lot of stuff. But at the same time, I feel kind of let down. That's one of the reasons why I left World Machine. Is I used World Machine for a long time, and then when they came out with a new version, my maintenance plan was already over, and they hadn't released anything in the time that I had a license for that version of World Machine. And then I had to buy another license to get the new releases. And so I just said no, and that's when I dropped World Machine entirely and just stuck with Gaea exclusively. So I was already using Gaea at that time and testing it and all that fun stuff with Dax and his team, but I had just enjoyed using Gaea a lot more than World Machine, so I just stuck with it. Didn't like being told nay when I was quite an early adopter of World Machine, but couldn't get an update because the developer had other things going on and didn't release anything. Nothing against him. I'm not trying to point fingers and blame things. They have their reasons, but at the same time, it's still one of those things where it's like, come on. I've had it forever. Just give it to me. All right, normal map. We'll say no, and we're going to apply that. And you can see how it's already doing what we need it to do. We'll come back to that in a minute. We're just going to use a displacer, and we're going to drop that under our plane. And if you go to mapping and untick tiling, it'll get rid of those nasty edges in your displacement maps. That's really good to have. Just say C, yes. And then we're going to do, I think on this plane, we're going to do just something simple for now. So like 50 by 50. And put in a sun. Hard to see what's going on here because the displacement's so small. So let's change that to, I don't know, maybe 5. Yeah, that'll probably work. All right, so let's drop that material on there and let's render this real quick. Might need to play around with it for a minute to get the right kind of stuff here, but also the lighting needs to be completely revamped here. That was just a quick plug. There we go. And now let's go and play with this material. So we want to have a wee bit of roughness, so that's more of a rough surface here. So we get that light coming through. I can't remember if the anisotropy is actually going to do anything here in this particular situation. It's not. We have to have something in here for like the rotation. We'll just keep it there. It's not really going to do much. We'll keep our normal there, and we're not going to use a displacement, but we are going to use a medium, and we're going to use they have a random walk option, which is like for subsurface scattering, which is pretty cool, but that's not what we're going to use. I clicked on it, but we're not going to use it. And we're just going to use scattering or absorption. One of those two. I believe it's going to be scattering. I always get mixed up on this. There we go. Absorption is going to be about the same anyways. So it's going to be, we're going to use a RGB spectrum here. And that spectrum will be all white. And then the scattering will be the same. So we can just actually copy this and paste it. But we're actually going to change the scattering a bit. we're going to change it to this more of a blue colorish. I think it's making it more red just with how scattering works. I think scattering, I can never remember. I always have to go back and look at examples, but I think scattering's white and absorption is blue. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to take out the red entirely, and we're just going to drop down the green values a bit until we find something that matches. Or what you could do is you can just go up here, and if you want one that matches your sky, if you look up above to the darkest point of your sky, which is right here in the middle, if I can get away from my water right there, and just chug that in there, and now we can look at our water. That should match our lighting values. Playing with those waves probably should have been something we did a little more of, but I think we're also going to increase the displacement. We need far more displacement than that. It's starting to come in, but we need more, maybe 30. Close that for a minute. Hey, there we go. Now we're getting that in. And I think what we can also do, just to make this look a little better, this isn't going to look great by any means, really. It's definitely going to be one of those things that we play around with more inside of Gaea itself. And this isn't how it's intended to be used anyways, but it just would have been interesting that you can probably use something like this. You guys are not even able to see this. I apologize. I always forget that. Is you can probably make something like this really cheap to render wave, sand wave doohickey for further shots, I guess. So like if you needed waves on if you wanted like displaced waves on a lake further out in your render, like in the background, you could use something like this and make it look a little bit better. We can also add a bump, so we don't want to forget that. We can add a bump to this, and we can use the turbulence bump. That helps it quite a bit, actually. And then increase the octaves and the omega, not that much maybe, but a little bit, just to disturb it a little bit more. And then you can change the contrast and the gamma, and that will actually give you slight variations throughout your surface here. There we go. All right, so you can see the light follows it pretty well when we pan the camera across. Now we just find a shot we like right there, I suppose. And then let's go back in here and play with this a little bit more. So I want to go back to medium, and we want to probably just kind of play around with the density a bit, turn down the density. If we increase it a lot, it'll really make it hard for our color to come through. So just want to decrease it just kind of a bit until we get the darker parts coming in. Don't want it fully down though. This isn't going to make a difference for most things unless you had like an actual volume. Actually, it looks like it's going to really make it really soft and faded. So I think in this case, we're probably going to want to decrease it even all the way. That's looking a little bit better. Then the phase is important, so we want to actually have this phase, how water will phase. And for clouds, I normally use a value of 33 right here. And I didn't choose that because it's .33333 repeating on threes. I actually chose that because when I'm doing VDBs and clouds, this looks really good. So at this point, we just got to check the extreme values and the mid values and just kind of see which one we like the most. And I'm just going to stick with a positive value here. I think with the volume step length so low, we can probably increase the density quite a bit more. There we go. All right. So I don't think anybody's going to really be joining this live session. I know it was really late, you guys. I do apologize. I just barely got off work and I was really wanting to play with this. So, but it won't take much longer to kind of just play with some stuff. This will be like your takeaway from this is you can use this to make water for your scenes. And this is actually looking pretty decent. So let's change this to path tracing so we actually get all what we need. And we're going to decrease the diffuse, not all the way, but we're going to keep the specular depth high, and then we're actually going to see what happens when we increase the scatter depth quite a bit. It's not going to really make much of a difference here, I suppose, but if we were to decrease this all the way, it wouldn't produce as good of results. And actually, one more thing. Let's go to roughness, and let's play around with that a bit more. So water isn't extremely rough, obviously, but we do want some roughness as to get highlights on our water. And I think I had too much going on. Let's do, if I can change it, let's do 001. Let's see what happens if we go really low. Yeah, that's what I'm more looking for, is that. And this is where I really wish I can get the anisotropy to work well, because I need these lines of light to kind of go across their surfaces a little bit more. I could probably do that with the normal. I'm going to play with that, actually. So if we go to rotation, and if we load up this image texture, and we just throw in a normal, I'm thinking that might work. Just slightly going across the surfaces, just a tad bit more, not by much. But we also need to go back and play with this, and I'm not even sure if it's doing anything, to be honest. I'm kind of treating it as the anisotropy that's in view when I made water in view. And I believe this should be doing the exact same thing, but it's not. So I haven't actually really played with that a whole lot inside of Octane, and I'm probably using it completely wrong, but there is that. All right, so let's turn down the hot pixel remover. And usually a good value to retain like fidelity in your render, so it doesn't really have soft surfaces, is 0.4 is typically a good number. That way it's not totally soft, but it reduces the hot pixels quite a bit. And I think we're just going to play around with the highlight compression here just to compress this a bit more so we don't have these really harsh highlights on these small areas. If it'll let me. Yeah, there we go. It updated, it's just taking a minute. And I'm going to choose a different response here. I'm going to choose one that I usually use, which is this darker one right there, with a slight vignette as I increase it all the way. Now I'm going to do a slight vignette. And I'll keep dithering on, yes. And let's denoise these. We don't have any volumes, so we actually don't need to select that, but I mean, it doesn't actually hurt to select it either. So you're kind of, it's a win-win, I suppose. And then we're going to enable bloom. So we want some bloom to come off of this. So let's, not that much. That looks pretty good. There is a cutoff now in the newer versions of Octane. So before it just kind of affected your, the bloom affected your scene across the board, but the cutoff will actually bring that bloom closer towards the highlight areas, as you can see here. And we're going to do some glare power, and what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just increase the ray amount a bit more. There we go. And then do the blur. And I'm just going to use a lot of blur on that. Maybe not that much. There we go. And then maybe not that much glare. All right. So that's looking like a good little C right there. Not perfect by any means, but it is nice. And we can go back and play with this bump a bit more. Maybe change the octaves so they're a little less. Now that makes it look a little too flat on the water surface. And we need to have a little more subsurface scattering going on here. Like these wavy areas need to come up, and there needs to be white. The light needs to shine through that a little bit more, so we need to change that. But I think maybe 6 might be a good value. 7 was a bit much, just a tad bit much. 6 seems to be a good middle ground. And we can also change the omega so it's a little bit less as well. This will make it look less choppy. That looks like it's more of a softer, like not as a windy, I guess, kind of lake surface. But if you increase the omega, it's going to make it look more noisy and really chaotic. But unfortunately, because we are affecting a 3D mesh here, you can start seeing it kind of bubbling up on top of itself, which does not look good in the slightest. So I think that's obviously too high. Let's do 0.6. Point 0.6 is a little bit too much too, so maybe 0.5. 0.5 is starting to get into that good realm a little bit. I'm going to decrease the contrast. There we go. That might be what we need. Now, if we were to look at this from a distance, that looks like a little ocean going across. Obviously, it will take a little bit of playing with just to get it perfect. And we're going to play with the lighting here just a tad bit. So let's see. I have 6 viewers. I hope you guys are able to join and get in on the conversation a bit. Oh, I'm moving my plane. I don't want to move the plane. I want to move the light. There we go. So now the light's over here. I wonder how it would look if it comes from behind. Just raise that up a bit. Didn't quite like that. I like how it kind of comes in here on the edge and creates this cool spectral effect. There. Way up, if we have it more towards the horizon, it'll get a little bit brighter there. We'll have this awesome little spectral light coming in and hitting our, what is a small, easy and cheap to render ocean using the sands right here. So you can ignore all this. We were just kind of playing around. But this is what we used. So I used the purlin to make a mask in the sand. I created these striations. And that's supposed to be like the wind sweeping over the water, creating the water striations as the wind hits it and breaks it apart. Probably didn't work out too well, but I spent like maybe 10 seconds doing it. So it's not that great, but it worked for this. So next thing is we have to get our volume right, our medium. And it's going to be difficult to do that. So we essentially need subsurface scattering. And we need it to work right. So we have a few different options here. So we can use absorption and scattering, and then we can also use random walk. This is new for me because I didn't have a new version of Octane. I was using Octane 4 for a long time, but I wanted to get the ray tracing stuff. So this is all new to me. Actually not sure how the random walk works. But randomly changing settings until you get something different, that's how I've always done things. I'm not getting the results I want. I think I had the better results using just the scattering option. So the absorption, we'll just go back and we'll use the RGB spectrum, and we'll just make that this blue color again. Should make it like this greenish blue, kind of aqua color. Right there, maybe. And volume step length, I think we need to decrease that. No, absorption's not going to really do it here either. So I think I had it right. I'm just going to go back to using scattering. Unless it needs to be refreshed. I probably did have something and it just needs to be refreshed. That would be my luck. Nope, there we go. So we'll just make that white. Odd. Doesn't seem like phasing is gonna do it either. Kind of get the light phasing towards the edge there, but and that's just playing with the direction of the phase here, which I think that will probably be the best right there. And this can be a little bit darker, about right there. I think just increase that bit. There we go. So I think the phasing is probably going to be better on the other end of the spectrum here. And then we can decrease the volume step length and the density. Actually, you know what? Let's increase the density quite a bit here. Let's see what happens. And the volume step length. Maybe about right there. That's gonna look good. So just some simple stuff here. Nothing great by any means, but you can kind of see how you can use it to get like a seabed or a lake in the distance of your scene if you need one. So you can use like lakes to make a lake inside of Gaea, and you have a nice little lake that you can make. And then in that lake area, you can just plot this little sand thing in there and you can make really cool waves. I wonder if I increase the displacement on this a bit more, it will work well. I don't have anything up to like actual real world scale here. It's a 50 by 50 plane with a 50 meter displacement, so that's a little bit much. Don't need that much, obviously, but it is what it is. And what it is what it is. I want to get some of this striation stuff in there. Yeah, I can't really tell very well, but it was a thought. Okay, so I don't think I'm gonna go over much of anything else. I just kind of wanted to play with this. This is what I found to be the most interesting part, but I guess we can break down a few other things in here. So they actually changed some stuff around. They took out warps, all the warping options that were in like the adjustments, and put them in their own category. So that's cool. So now we have primitives, geoprimitives, and warps all in there. Have geoprimitives and warps being new. And we still have adjustments. Now we have profiles, which is nice. This is awesome. So they're kind of breaking up the filters here a little bit as well, where these help create different profiles. Like if you look at like a profile curve, this is what it's doing here. That's pretty cool. And then you just have filters, erosion, and then we have a few more look devs, which are really cool. So in the look devs, they have shear and anastomosis, if I'm saying that right. And I think they made a few other adjustments to this. It's like flow. Let's see. They made some flow adjustments. I wonder what would happen if you put shear into sand. Or sand into shear. Because technically you're shearing the water surface. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That could work if you had the right kind of setup, I suppose. So you have just these properties in here. So you have scale, folding, and direction. Oh, and self-modulated. Let's remove this so we get the full effect here. There we go. Kind of breaks it up a little bit more. Creates these little shearing patterns, as you can see. That actually looks really cool. This would look nice with sand, and maybe if you were to use this for water surfaces, it could probably work pretty well too. Let's increase the folding all the way. I just want to see how ridiculous we can get. Yeah, you can see the folds. And then just the direction, obviously. Let's just be whichever direction you're folding. Pretty self-explanatory stuff there. Super easy. All right, well, suppose there's that. All right, well, I know I just did myself twice. Let's do just a final render of this just to kind of, show it off and say, hey, look, you can do this with sand, blah, blah, blah. People probably already know, but it'll be fun. All right. Let's do, what is the render settings right here? Gotta do Octane. Kind of want to play with the Pro render stuff. We need to be using Thea render a bit more, but their development has kind of stopped as well. And I hate it when development on programs that I purchase stops, because it just means that nothing comes out and my money's wasted. I'm pretty sure everybody feels that way, not just me. All right. Get a kind of decent angle here. There, maybe. Just zoom it in a bit. And let's move the light a bit more. So that's in the middle. There we go. Yeah, not too bad for just playing around and not really doing much of anything. It doesn't look too bad. Let's go ahead and render that out. Put the power of Octane to use. Don't have as many viewers this time around, but I don't blame you guys. It's pretty late, so error. We have a Facebook or YouTube error here. No, it's saying excellent connection. What the actual F? What's going on here? YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. Interesting. Then the stream health is excellent. Well, I don't know. You guys are only watching for 6 minutes. It breaks my heart, but it's all right. It is late. We got some noise here in the speculars, so we're just gonna let this go through. All right, well, I'm gonna let this kind of render out. We'll call it good for this quick live stream. We'll be doing more. Also, when I went camping this weekend, I busted my toe, so I'm not gonna be moving around or doing much of anything, so I'll probably be doing a little more videos for you guys, free stuff, as well as I'm working on an advanced Gaea workflow series for you guys. And the funny thing about the two that I came out with, so I have the beginner and the intermediate one. The intermediate one I actually started recording before the beginner one, and I actually started recording that back before Gaea was released to the public. And the reason why is because sorry, Dax wanted training material for Gaea before it came out. They were working on their own, but he wanted community options as well. So I started making some and I released them on YouTube, and all the ones that you see on there came out around the time that it came out publicly, because I actually got super busy at work and I didn't touch my computer for close to 3 or 4 months. But during that time, whenever I had like 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes in between of all the crap I was doing, I would sit down and record a quick video, and then I was actually just going to release it alongside of Gaea as a training series that you can buy, that and Gaea at the same time, separately, I suppose. Not at the same time, but if you wanted to buy training for it, you could also get Gaea and the training. I guess that's the way I'm trying to say it. And it just didn't pan out that way, and then I got busy with life and other things. Everybody knows how that goes. And then I actually recorded the beginner stuff like within a week or so. It took me a couple hours to do it, and I had to keep recording videos because things were not working out really well for me when I was recording things. My stand kept breaking on me and things like that, and then I was like, you know what, screw it, and then I got this, so now it's nice. It's really nice. Probably the best thing that's happened to my recording situation since 2009. Anyways, all right, well, I will stop boring you guys with dialogue. If you end up watching this tomorrow, please feel free to comment, and I'll see you on the forum or in Facebook, and keep creating beautiful things.